Hello, lovers. Welcome to Heart, the Living Spiritfully podcast. I am your host, Paul Galoro, and in this podcast, I have heart-centered conversations with people I truly believe are living spiritfully. Before we get into today's guest, I just want to open up my heart one more time to you and say a great, big, wholehearted thank you so much for your participation in this podcast, for listening, sharing, commenting, messaging, all the things that you've been doing in support of the podcast. It truly means so much to me. This has been a fun project for me to do during this year of 2020 and has been so heart-opening, mind-expanding, eye-opening, and I cannot thank you enough for your part in it. Today's guest is my dear friend, Dr. Heather Ciasnocha. And she says something so brilliant and so profound. She says, sometimes the darkness is cozy. And I truly believe that unless we know our darkness, we will never truly know our light. So as somebody who has embraced my darkness to shine my light, I share with you this beautiful heart-to-heart with Dr. Heather. Please enjoy. Now, please welcome to the show my dear friend, Dr. Heather Ciasnocha. Heather, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy you're here because you and I have been on a journey, like together, but beside each other, but apart, but intertwined and all of that. And so this is really exciting for me, for us to have
Parallel, like to call it.
Yeah, but and at the same time, like, I don't know. Anyways, let's just chat a little bit about how we met. Again, I don't remember exactly when it was, but all I remember is that I was teaching at a gym and you had a chiropractor office there. And I came to see you and you did a lot of work on me. Thank you so much. And then I stopped working there in 2015, but still came to see you every now and then.
Yeah.
And then you went on a journey that led you to where you are now, which I'm sure we will talk about. So I'm super excited that you're here because we've got a lot to catch up on. And
so much.
It's
my recollection of you is not even as a patient. It was beforehand. I think it was like in passing at the front desk of the club. And I always had this vision of you and your amazing scarves. And like, there was one, like it was a bluey purple one with a print or something on it. And I'm like,
yes, my favorite scarf. I got it in India.
Scarf. I love that one. And like just this beautiful energy coming in, like with like this warm, cozy scarf. And I'm like, he just like looks like a hug in human form.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. First of all, thank you for that because I love scarves, but I've really tapped into my naturist feelings over the last little while with COVID and everything. So I haven't been wearing much clothing or scarves, but now you just re-inspired me because it's cooling down outside. So.
You could kind of do both, like be naturist, but with a scarf.
Yeah, of course. Like, why didn't I ever think of that? So thank you. I will send you a picture of that next time I do it.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, because I remember we didn't like interact before I started to see you, and then it was like once we got into your office, it was just like nothing else existed. And
which was hard to do because we could always hear the spin studio. I could hear the treadmills outside. So like I always tried to make that the most safest space in that gym as we possibly could have. It was like such a weird location. It was like by the water fountain in the men's change room.
Yeah. Directly across from the thumping of the treadmills and the spinning studio and people walking by. And
yeah, it was crazy. It was like kind of like a weird like little hub though, so it was awesome. So
yeah,
you gotta take it for what it was, right? It's
exactly
where we started.
Exactly, and that's what I love is like you and I sort of started in the same place and then just branched out into so many places. So I'm so excited to catch up. And everything. So tell me, how is your heart?
So right now it feels awesome, but the weeks up to today even, the best way I could kind of describe it is like a half-finished Rubik's Cube.
Okay.
Okay.
Elaborate.
the finish side is the obviously I feel extremely blessed to be able to where I am right now and happy and like loved and supported. And then the unfinished side is just that kind of like hot mess that the world is right now.
Mm, yeah.
Right. So it's like I feel like I'm right in that middle. Like I'm conscious brain and heart knows everything is amazing and great, but then there's that little unfinished stuff kind of to the side that just kind of creeps itself in. And it's just part of being a business owner and a practitioner in the middle of what we're living in right now, right?
Right.
So it's I'll say magenta. If you want to say it that way. If you want to like kind of just like that mix mash of everything.
Right.
Yeah. I don't
And
know.
how beautiful is the color magenta,
I know, right?
right? So I love that. I love that. It's a great sort of little visual for that.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more. Your what I didn't bring people up to speed is you are currently in your very own wellness clinic. How would we describe it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So literally prior to the world pandemic being declared, I closed on a commercial unit. And so during the middle of a pandemic, my husband and I were physically hanging drywall and painting and building
Wow.
our clinic, my clinic. And by the grace of whoever's looking out for me, God or maybe my grandparents, I don't know, but someone was looking out for me. And then the day that we were allowed to go back to like a modified stage one, because being a chiropractor throughout this whole process is I've been an essential service, but my hands were tied. I'm an essential service, but I've only ever been allowed to see a certain amount of cases or whatever. So when they released that was 5 days before we got the occupancy permits and we're ready to open the clinic.
Wow.
So June 1st, doors opened, and that's when then all the fun and the awesomeness kind of came in. And so that's where it was. And then as of September, I brought on the two, my first employees or staff. I brought in the two massage therapists as well. So the clinic is slowly growing, and then I'm looking to expand even further with the right professionals. And I'm trying to get my energy aligned to figure out what I need to emulate to bring into them to be able to bring into this space. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we've been working with. So
Oh, wow. I
it's
love
been
that.
fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I've been to your space. We did a little blessing before you opened your doors. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful space, and I'm so excited how it has blossomed since then. Right now, there's three of you. You're offering more services, and something that you said too about bringing yourself into alignment so that you can draw in others to,
Yes.
to emulate that and create that community and that environment that you've envisioned.
Yeah, and exactly. That's I mean, part of that was just me. You can't just put a body in there, right? And one thing I've noticed over the last little bit is I am in a very privileged position that my patients do trust me, right? So whoever I bring in, I need to make sure I trust them,
Right.
right? Because I'm not just going to refer my patients to just anybody because, you know, it just doesn't work like that. And it's that personal relationship and that vision that I have, and that me being able to know them and be able to guide them into the right path is something I never take for granted. And so that's why I need to make sure my head's in the right space. So I hire somebody or bring on somebody who's at least shares part of the same vision,
Hmm.
to be able to help manage my patients to the best of their ability, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's there's a lot of work that needs to be done on my part for that too, because it's, you know, I'm a female business owner in 2020. There's still a lot of worry and angst and all of that, you know,
Right.
like, so
Yeah. Well,
try and
you
make sure that doesn't get expressed.
yeah. Well, you mentioned that you've done a lot of work. Like, what is that work that you've done to get to that place?
Oh, so this is a nice big can of worms. So let's go back to the whole journey together, Paul.
Let's do it.
So there was, how do I even describe it? I don't want to use the word anger, but I was in a traumatic car accident in 2007, right? And there was a lot of healing and anger that I had to let go from that. So I'm a firm believer of everything happens for a reason. And even if it meant getting hit by a car while crossing the street, there was a reason behind that, right?
Wow.
It's a wake up call sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's clearly what I needed. I mean, the universe is going to send you the same lessons over and over until you learn it or create a change, right? So clearly I wasn't listening before that. And this is what happened. And so I had to move past that, right? So there was the physical healing that needed to happen. And then you have all that emotional and mental healing that needs to happen too. And then the unfortunate thing is I was not in the best relationship at the time. I had a very toxic partner, and learning to get between all of that. And then I threw myself into chiro school. So in the most grueling 4-year programs, that you could possibly do. So I had to learn how to manage stress and anger and pain, because there was a lot of physical healing that was still happening while trying to study and improve myself. And that's a lot.
Yeah.
So it took a while after chiro school for me to fully even get past kind of all the mental healing, if I will, and then begin that mental healing. I think at one point I came to you to get my chakras cleansed, right? If you remember that. And I was looking into that. And then I really started diving more into kind of a meditation practice, especially in the past few years. And I'm a huge believer of like actual therapy as well. So with my therapist as well, there's been working through those different kinds of emotions and shedding the negativity. I mean, it's always going to be there. For light, there is dark. So it's always going to be there. But how do you control some of those maybe negative stories that we play into our head? Because they're stories that we tell ourselves, right? And we can morph them. So where is it coming from, and how do we process that? And then how do we acknowledge it and deal with it and then move past? So those are the kind of the things that I've been doing. So it's been a lot of meditation. My running has been a huge part of that. It says, like I run marathon. Well, maybe not now, but I am a runner. And being able to get into that zone has been able to help me in so many different ways, right? Because let's be serious, running is mostly mental.
Yeah.
It's mostly mental. And you have to be kind of loopy to be like, yeah, let's go run 42 kilometers.
Yeah.
For fun. Right?
Early on a Sunday morning when it's like -3 outside.
-20 even.
Yeah. See.
Yeah. Right. So it's the mentality that goes with it, right? Like if I can get through this, then now I know I can deal with all those other things that might come through the clinic and my own, the fact that I'm extremely sensitive. So if someone says something, I take it to such heart because I've given you my heart and soul to help manage and protect that as well. Right? So those have been a lot of the ways that I've been kind of working on it. And, it's like little affirmations and the little things that we can do to help reassure ourselves, for the lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we dive deeper into what you said about, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's something along the lines of being mindful of your heart and protecting it. As a very sensitive person, I'm sure, and I don't want to speak about your experience, but I know with me as a sensitive person, it is easy for me, especially when we pour our lives and our love into the work that we do, to have somebody make a comment about it and it just sort of like crushes you or stops you like dead in your tracks for a minute. So enlighten me. How can I how are you working through that? I'm looking for inspiration.
Okay. Yep. So, I mean, it used to start with little things, like like when my practice was growing, and people would cancel or drop off, or all that kind of things. I would take it so personal. Like, did I do something wrong? Like, do they not like me? And I'm using the best that I can do, and all of that. But you have to realize everyone has their own journey, their own path, right? And one thing that keeps me sane is it's not necessarily me, it's I'm interpreting my own reflections in their actions, right? Like it's a mirror, right? So like if someone's angry at you, it's probably because there's something else going on, kind of idea, versus it's necessarily being directed directly at you. So the ways I've been kind of channeling myself is just reassuring, like I'm doing the best that I can. And I'm completely honest with absolutely everything. I'm not going to explain miracles if I don't think I can, get you to that level. I'm very real with everybody. So I think it's managing expectations and having that honesty with people for me has been a way to put up that kind of barrier. So then that way, like, listen, like I've laid everything on the table that it possibly could be or might be, or these are options A, B, and C, and you're choosing this, you're doing that in your own conscious and with the most education that I could give you, and cool, then let's work with that. So then that way, if something goes wrong, it's not reflected, I'm not taking it personally because I've told them the honest truth of what may or may not happen, and it just becomes another conversation.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally. It makes me think, there has been times where, and not necessarily with clients, but like family members, for example, they'll come to me and be like, oh, I'm having this situation. What do you recommend? What do you think I should do? Blah, blah, blah. And I'll offer, based on my knowledge and research and experience, have you considered this? And if it's something that they don't want to do, there has been times where I would like take that personally, but I'm also now trying to learn more, like, okay, that's your journey. You obviously aren't in a place to try what I had recommended, and that's fine. It's not me. It's just where you're at, and I'm here when you're ready.
Yeah, and it's finding where they are in that journey and meeting them kind of there, and maybe like, instead of offering them this, you kind of go, okay, well, this is, I think, where you're at. Right? Like, I'll just use rehab as an example, right? Being like, I'm not going to say, let's start doing sport specific exercises which is all we probably need it, but we just really need you up and walking. Right? So I know it's a very simplistic way to kind of explain it, but it's finding where and learning people. That's been one thing for me, learning what they're telling me, like truly listen and be able to match them so they can understand where I'm coming from.
Right.
I've been in practice for 8 years, but I've been in healthcare for 15. So it's been a lot of introspective work too, because I'm realizing how words can be interpreted to other people. Right? So, and then if I use an analogy, I'm like, okay, it's really simplistic, but this is where this analogy comes from. And I find that kind of helps. And then like little things too, like you talk about like saging the clinic regularly. Like I did it right just before the full moon on Sunday, or Saturday, I should say. And just getting that energetic flow in through there and trying to leave things at the door. And, it's easier said than done. We're human. And like I have patient cases I'll keep me up at night because I'm like, okay, well, this isn't working and whatever, but that's just kind of who I am too. So being a sensitive person, it's great, but it kind of sucks sometimes too.
It affects your patterns.
Yeah.
So what led you to going, so I know you said you had the accident and everything, but was the accident before or after chiropractic school?
Before.
Okay, so then was the accident what led you to chiropractic school, or was that something that you were curious about prior?
I was curious about it prior to. So actually, the accident was months after I graduated university. So I had just moved back to Ontario, and I had actually already been accepted to Chiro school, but I turned them down. I wasn't ready. I had this whole plan that I was going to go to Australia and surf and go work on like a private yacht kind of thing. I don't know. My brother had a connection or something. I can't even remember anymore. And like I was going to scuba dive down there and just be 22, really, right? And then the accident obviously prevented that because that also took months away off work where I couldn't afford to go off and do my little journey there.
Yeah.
But again, everything happens for a reason. Maybe I would not have ended up at the school had I not had the accident, or maybe I never would have come back to Canada. Who knows, right? Like everything happens for a reason. So it was I was already interested. So I did my undergrad in kinesiology, and I did specialize through the program at the university to do like on-field therapy and sport injury management. Uh, so I'd always wanted to kind of go into that route. Being a young athlete myself, being a young accident-prone athlete, I I saw lots of manual practitioners and therapists as a kid, just because I was a gymnast and multiple concussions and just being, you know, crazy.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to be one of those people because the way that they helped me and the way I saw them, I'm like, I wanted to be that person. So then at one point I wanted to run away with Cirque du Soleil and be the doctor with Cirque du Soleil.
Oh man.
Right. And then it just, the way that could just kind of work. So then I went to Chiro school, and then that opened my life to something different, because what I thought I wanted to do with my practice when I entered the school is completely different than how now I'm practicing kind of now. So like I've even grown and changed in my, 8+ years of experience in the field now. And that's been part of my own journey and how I've noticed the missing connection when I'm helping people. So it's like, as I'm growing and changing, I can see the difference within my practice as well.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I recognize that also too within myself when I'm working with my clients, coaching, etc. But then I'll start to feel a rumbling within myself of something that needs to be healed. And so I'll start to explore that or work with it or feel it, or, I see my energy healers and all of that stuff. And then I start to notice, if it's not within the people that are immediately around me, other people start to come looking for that sort of healing. So it's almost like I do the work within myself, and then people start to come that need a similar sort of healing.
Well, so because now you can see it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like this full thing is like, rise of whatever is increasing. Is it because we didn't know about it before, or is it because we were blind so we didn't have the proper testing?
Right.
Right. So now once your eyes open to be able, like, okay, maybe it is this, or maybe it's this. Like when we're talking about energetically, you become awoke to it almost.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
I mean, like, I don't talk about this with most of my patients. Like, most of it's very like mechanical. But I mean, at the end of the day, my clinic is called Trinity, because I do believe mind, body, soul is how, like, and that Venn diagram really between the three things is where you're going to have that perfect like balance and health and everything, right? So we're fools just to think that there's only one thing out there. And like, I mean, I provide acupuncture, and back years ago on Western medicine, they didn't think acupuncture did anything.
Right.
Right. They thought it was just like this weird Asian Chinese tradition that they didn't understand. But now the research is there, and so we're getting there.
Right.
It's just sometimes you got to have faith and take time and realize that there is something higher working, and it's the connection of all of it. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. We don't know what we don't know.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it takes, like, I call it the physical world, so like research and all of that, to catch up to the energetic world.
Yes.
And be like, oh yeah, okay, now I see the connection. Now I see why it's beneficial. Whereas before it was just like, woohoo, whatever, right? Because we're seeing that even with yoga and meditation.
I know.
Whereas before it was just like, whatever. Now it's like an actual thing that people are being, like doctors are recommending to their patients meditate. We're even hearing with COVID,
Oh, I know.
like mental health stuff is like, get into meditation, get into yoga. And I've been studying it for the I'd say the last 6 or 7 years since I got into yoga for PTSD. But I've been experiencing it a lot more within myself lately, is understanding how, like, literally all I'm thinking about all day, every day now is my nervous system. It's like, so half of the week I am working on construction, supporting not supporting, but helping my father and my sister with the family business. And then the other half of the week I'm doing my stuff. And so in the beginning, I noticed there was such this, like, it was just so jarring to go from this place of light and love to then now being in a place where saws and drills and hammers and these really burly men like spitting and, you know, making racist and homophobic comments. And so it really had this like bang on my nervous system. And so my yoga practice now has been more, okay, feel it within, and now start to, like, what's going to make this feel good? And now what's going to balance that out? And how, if I spend a lot of time like this, how can I do that? And so now it's like being aware of that within my day-to-day life. I'm now aware of that within my interactions with other human beings.
It's almost like it's a good thing too, because you've been, like, you're so entrenched in the love and light, but most people in our worlds can't live there forever. They have that, like I said, that opposing side. So it's kind of neat that you're having to learn how to rebalance the two, kind of like where your students would be.
Yes. Exactly.
Right. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah. So it's relearning. You're relearning, right? Yeah. And it's I love how you said the nervous system, because obviously the nervous system is what I explain it as the electricity that lights our house. Right? Because at the end of the day, that's it. And there's a lot of really cool research that's even coming out in heart rate variability and everything that, again, before they're like, oh, well, it doesn't mean anything. I'm like, no, but it does. And it's that shift, because if you actually look at, okay, finish my thought here, Heather. I have like 10 going on in my head at once. If you look at the traditional chiropractic principles, right? It's that basically it's you're healing down from the top down, inside out. So that's the traditional principles if you want to go back, you know, 100 and whatever years beforehand. And the idea is as you're connecting, you as an energetic body are connecting potentially to something higher that's going to allow your body to heal itself. Right? So it's that very organic that there is that intuition inside of us to go towards healing, if we allow it. Right. And navigating that shift is an ongoing change. It's like the currents in an ocean, right? They're going to be there, but it's how to navigate it and find that right path is ongoing. And that's why wellness truly is an ongoing journey, because there's always going to be something that's going to rock you.
Right.
And it's finding that energy back to it. So it's a good thing that we use the word journey, because we're all on a journey, right? We're never sedentary, right? Rest is rust, and you need to be moving and growing. And I mean, like, I'm glad I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago, right? Because that means I'm stuck, right? And you have to evolve and grow and, you know, be thrown into everything and learn from it. And I think that's kind of the nice thing about the human experience, right? It's you're going through everything, right? And you're not alone in it. It's just same wavelength, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you speak of that natural intelligence within us that moves towards healing, the thing is, it moves towards healing. And so that's where the movement aspect of things and the alignment aspect of things is so important. Yes. As a yoga therapist, and when I'm teaching a yoga experience, I'm always looking at alignment. And I'm looking at alignment, yes, for safety, but I'm also looking at alignment because I want I am facilitating an experience where the energy within us can flow seamlessly from bottom to top, right? That's the Kundalini rising.
Yes.
And I do this, that's the caduceus, right? Which you're familiar with as a chiropractor. But that's, you have that, isn't that somewhere?
Yep. It's in our pendant.
Yeah, like you have that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm always thinking of that alignment and one of the things that's important for me as the yoga therapist, yoga teacher, is to make sure that we're moving our body in a certain way so that energy can flow freely, right? And move. And that's what you're doing as a chiropractor with adjustments and exercises and acupuncture to soften the tissue and all of that stuff, is to get people into that alignment so that the energy can flow freely.
Exactly. You explain it so much more eloquently. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's exactly it. So, I mean, we're an energetic body, right? And I mean, I like to kind of explain that. It's just like, how do animals just sometimes know things? It's just their energy, right? As like, I mean, I joke like, if my dog doesn't like you, there's going to be something wrong with you, right? Because he's maybe picking up on some sort of kind of negative or whatever. And it's like this energetic world that we live in, we're still learning how to tap into it.
Yeah.
Right. So the principles are there because that's what we've used in the past and it's the best way we know how to do it. Like, do I doubt that who knows, maybe these AIs are going to find a way to tap into that? Probably, who knows, right? And that's scary and cool at the same time because then it validates what we know and we feel.
Right.
But not everybody's there. So sometimes we need that scientific proof, right? And like, I mean, I practice evidence-based, so it's there, but in my heart, based on my own healing journey as well, there has to be something else.
Yeah.
Right. And that's that alignment and everything else. And it's, I get taken care of and looking at everything else to try and be my best self, because everyone deserves the best version of me, right? I deserve the best version of me.
Yes.
Right. So it's just all part of it.
Yeah. No, girl, I get it. And especially like when you say I deserve the best version of me, like this morning. So usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm working there. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'm doing my thing. And I need that space. Like this morning was me luxuriating in the bath. I need that space for me to get back into my body. Cause I even noticed too, I have a deadline coming up with something, but I haven't given myself the space to think about it because I've just been in that other world for so long, that this morning I allowed myself the space after I did a little bit of movement. I got into the bath. All of this stuff started rushing into me. So I'm like writing down things in my phone. And then I went to go check the Facebook, and immediately I felt a shift in my nervous system that it didn't like. And I was like, oh, I need to make this change so that I could go back, because it was almost like I saw this trajectory. I was like, okay, I could go back to that beautiful, luxurious place I was and be my best self for when I meet with Heather. Mm-hmm. Or I can stay here in this Facebook land of all of this shit that's getting thrown at me, and I could feel it. I was like, my heart was starting to race. I was like, I can't go into conversation with Heather like this. Like, this is just, I'm not even going to know how to connect because I'm too much thinking of this stuff.
Have you been finding social media has just been a bit much lately?
Oh, too much. Like since September, I've cut back significantly. I actually broke a promise that I made to myself by going on Facebook on my phone.
Oh yeah?
But it was interesting for me because, again, I could see, like, I didn't realize the effect that it had on my nervous system until I, like, cut it out and then went back in with that space. But, yeah.
Yeah, I've had the conversation with my husband before because I think he actually just deleted Instagram again. I'm not sure. But we always had the conversation, like, who are you following when you're following these kinds of things? And he really liked following corporations for some reason, right? I'm like, so you're being sold to all the time, right? Like you're literally going into their walking commercials every single time. He's like, I never even thought of it that way, right? Because and then obviously once you go down that rabbit hole, the way that they're feeding you those things, so you're always being sold to. And I'm like, I just, I can't see friends, so I kind of want to connect with them. But even then, I'm kind of going, no one's really doing anything right now. So like, I'm finding it like overwhelming. And it's the same thing is like, I need to, like, I'm professionally, I'm active on it, but I'm not engaged in it right now. Right. And for the same thing, for that same kind of energy, it's like, I can't have that kind of energy in me when I go to touch a patient because it's going to come through. So
yes,
I need to like just not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And go and explore and be out in nature or whatever, and like not even bring my phone with me. It's just been, I don't know what it is. Maybe it was the full moon like last weekend, but it's just been a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the state of the world that we're in, and for those of you that are listening to this, we're recording this like days after the U.S. election. They have not even I don't know, I didn't check in today, but last night they haven't even come up with we don't even know who the president is going to be yet.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of that crazy, I don't like using this word, but it's the only word that I can describe this craziness, this turbulence around all of that is just intense. And that affects our nervous system too, right?
1000%. So, I mean, it goes back to the idea is your diet is not just the food you consume. It's the people you're around, the things you're watching, the stuff that you're reading, right? Because that's what's reiterating whatever those thought patterns and those stories that you're telling yourselves are, right? So if you're only watching negative kind of horror kind of stuff, you're going to feel that. So I remember I took a functional neurology course years ago as part of my continuing education. And it was an American doctor that was teaching it. And he's like, no wonder we're stuck in this negative loop. Like, look at the shows people are liking to watch, like these true crime things and all this negative, violent stuff. No wonder we can't find peace and light because we're being bombarded. And I mean, by humans, by nature, we're curious about these kinds of things.
Yeah.
So we're curious, but it's not when you're watching it on 10-hour repeat of it or, Netflix binging, it's not kind of really healthy for you there, right? Which is sometimes I just like to put on something light and funny at the end of the day because it's, even if it's a familiar show, because this is light and it's a way to clear maybe the stuff that some patients have brought in and I'm still carrying on me when I come home because I'm thinking about them. And it's trying to find the light in the darkness is the most important thing. Right. But sometimes the darkness is cozy.
Oh, I love that you just said that because I totally get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. And also not to be, I did a 4-week course in shadow work and I'm all about it. So there was, I left, I closed my studio, I did all of that stuff and I traveled for 3 months and those 3 months were sort of broken down into light, dark, and then limbo. And the dark as it was good for me in a sense because, when there's that analogy, when you feel like you're in the dark, sometimes you're just being planted. And so it's like being a seed going into that dark place to nurture, plant, and start to set your roots to then grow from that space. So there's benefit to it, but we just don't want to live there, right? You can't thrive underground unless you're a potato, but even then you get pulled out of the ground and eaten.
But even then you get greens on the top that
are
going towards the light to feed your soul, right?
Yeah.
So even the most basic food group, right? You still need light.
Yeah.
Unless you're a mushroom.
Unless you're a mushroom, yes. But then even then you're going to be delicious when you're out in the light.
And you're going to be a fun guy, so there you go.
Exactly. Oh,
sorry, I had to.
Well, you're hilarious. I love that.
Low-hanging fruit, I had to.
Oh, goodness. So, what's going on right now? What would you say is something that you're working on, the direction that you're looking in? Like what's your work right now, personally?
So as far as the clinic is concerned, we're approaching kind of that year end, right? So actually, traditionally in a non-COVID world, this is when the massage therapist and myself would get very, very busy ramping up to the December kind of deadline for people's insurance and whatnot. I'm prepared for anything because nothing's predictable anymore.
Right.
Trends are not predictable. It's kind of fun, right? To be relearning things. But then I want to get ready because I am seeing the need specifically in a lot of some of my middle-aged patients or whatnot. Or not even middle-aged, just in my patients in general. I want to bring in some sort of mental health practitioner. That was always in the big picture anyways, but I might try and expedite that a little bit because as we're going into the shorter days and the darker days, and the idea is as much as I might tell my patients, get out and go for a walk, like we can learn how to, we're Canadian, we're going to learn how to weather whatever weather, you got to dress for it, right? And be prepared for it. I don't know if a lot of people will, right? So being active outdoors specifically in the winter is even more important because we need that vitamin D, we need the sunshine, we need to get you out of your house, right? Out of that stagnant air with the furnace and all those kinds of things. But what I've also noticed is if people aren't commuting to the office anymore, they're commuting upstairs if they even live in a house, not in a condo, like we've talked about this, and now they're going into their office, which might be right off of the kitchen. Mm-hmm. So they're just not physically even getting in those precious little steps. And then we know that obviously movement is going to help with mental health, but it's also that it's a cyclical thing, right? If we're not moving, and exercise is great for stress, anxiety, and like low grade, those things. But not being able to talk to people, I find, or even that social connection, which we've lost. And maybe that's probably why I'm disenchanted with social media right now, because it's never going to replace that hug from a friend. Mm-hmm. And if you are listening to the guidelines and being very worried about things, you might not even be hugging friends, right? Right. And what I've noticed is, like, I've had people come into me, they're like, especially in the summer months, they're like, you're the first person I've had physical contact with in months that's not maybe my partner. I'm going, okay, that's a powerful message, right? And I'm only one person, so having somebody to help with that next level, I think will be really important for the clinic. And then I want to get somebody in as well for nutrition, like a naturopath kind of thing as well, because obviously what we put into our body is what's going to fuel our body. I'm a huge believer of that as well. So that way now we're getting the beautiful little trifecta. Like, I'll take care of the physical side, and better, more qualified professionals can take care of the rest. And then that way it's nice, this beautiful little balance to be able to serve people the best that we possibly can.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and in terms of, like, is there anything that you're working on within yourself to be available to make all of that happen?
My trust issues. Like, I'll be honest. It's which is deep-seated. Pardon?
What's your sign?
Cancer.
Cancer. Okay. And yeah. Do you know where your moon and your rising are?
No, we've talked about it, but I don't think we ever fully explored it.
All right.
We can.
We'll save that for when we're not recording this podcast, but please continue. You were saying your trust issues.
Yeah, so it's just been figuring out why I have such interesting trust issues. I'm like a very loving and approaching, and I am a trusting person, but when it comes to now, like, my clinic space, which is kind of like I'm a mama bear. Right? Like, and I always have been. Like, my friends, like, if we have a problem, we'll come to you because you're, I like to think I'm like the fun, joyous, whatever one. No, I'm the mama bear of my friends. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So whoever I bring into that space, I want it to be like, I feel like I can trust and love them, and they're going to reflect what I'm trying to build with the practice as well. So clearly there was at some point in my life where someone in my inner circle has put a kink into that force field. So that's kind of what I'm working on. I'm actually reading a book right now, which is ongoing. I keep putting it up and put it down, called The Emotion Code.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm familiar with that book. I started reading it just before the pandemic and put it down.
Yeah, and I don't know why I keep putting it up, and maybe some of it I'm not resonating with it. I think I just need to leaf through it and go to the part that I'm resonating to.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie, at the end of the day, I'm pretty tired. So to pick up a book right now isn't.
Yeah.
Well, I should, right? And going back to that Rubik's Cube thing, that blessed and whatever, that unfinished side where I know I need to finish it and do it, I can't quite get there right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to work on that trusting side of things, because then, and probably it's even trusting myself that I'm going to hire the right people.
Right.
Right. And then so that way I don't take for granted the trust of my patients when I refer them to somebody. So that's what I'm working on.
Amazing.
I'm sitting and meditating with it and working through it. Not as, I'll be honest, not as diligent as I should, kind of like maybe only once a week, but I'm aware of it, and that's part of the process. So now I need to
absolutely
go with it. Yeah.
Your vision of the Rubik's Cube, I want to thank you for that, because something came up with how you were just talking about it now. Because sometimes, you know, like you said, you have that one side that's finished and the rest is not. Sometimes in order to complete the entire thing, we have to break down that one side that was finished, right? And we have to be okay with scrambling it up for a minute to get to a place where we can have two sides or three sides or all sides in that perfect finished space.
I don't know. Is there something more difficult than a Rubik's Cube? Is there like a hexagon one where like...
Oh, I think, okay, so that was like, the Rubik's Cube was like 70s, 80s, and then in the 90s they tried to make like something modern that had all these different weird shapes.
All the different sides. So like, maybe those are the different parts of life. And like, let's be serious. We can't say life is clean and it's always going to be finished. There's always going to be a sticker falling off that we put somewhere else. And, you know, so those kinds of things. So it's just managing the best. And I've never finished a Rubik's Cube in my life. So.
I had to Google how to do a Rubik's Cube. It's actually like, it's like an equation. There's like, anyways, there's ways that you can, doesn't matter what color you're doing, you just twist it in certain ways and you'll perfect it.
Yeah, math has never been my strong point. So my accountant laughs at me like, oh. So equations and I just, sure. So it's been part of that journey, is like you said, like the cleaning, and like I realized that, but I liked that analogy just because, like, obviously, like, I know I'm blessed. Like, let's be serious. Like, I know a lot of clinics that haven't been able to pay their bills right now, and that's, thank you, not the case for us. And then we're still able to grow, right? So that's the blessed side. And the unfinished side is, you know, the A types, like, oh, I know I need to be doing this. I should be doing this. I should be whatever. But my husband's like, no, you just need to sit and like chill. Right. And there's just sometimes not enough hours in a day, but that's, as long as the trajectory is going this way, like I say, healing is a process. It's never linear. You're going to have these ups, downs, and sometimes I just need to remind myself of that.
Right. Yeah. You know, one thing that I've been I've been finding a lot more plants and trying to fill my house with them, as you can see in the background, and I've got another stash over there. But one of the, like, I'm learning so much from being a plant daddy that it's amazing, because I'm really, I've always been aware of it, but because, you know, we're told otherwise, I haven't really been focused on it. But this idea of like living seasonally, like there are seasons when it's you hunker down, you got to get the work done, you're producing, you're creating, you're doing all of that stuff. And then there's other times like the winter of life where it's a little bit slower. It's dead, right? It's really cold. There's not much activity happening. And having plants really helps me sort of be reminded of that, because it's like, okay, it's time to slow down now, and there's nothing wrong with slowing down.
No.
And there's ways that we can still be productive, but work a lot slower. Like my plants, for example, they're still blossoming, not as much as they were in the summertime, but I'm still seeing leaf sprouting here and there. I'm still seeing things die and new things grow, even as the weather's getting colder. But it's being tapped into that and knowing when, okay, now I have the energy, go, and now I don't really have the energy to slow down, and it's okay.
It's interesting to use plants, because I'm like, I just planted my garlic.
Oh, yes.
Right? So garlic is going to grow in the winter,
Yeah.
in that cold, in that dormant and whatever, and it's going to use it. So you're right. We need to learn how to slow down. I think sometimes the use of technology has made it a little bit more difficult to slow down, because it's all right there all the time.
Yeah.
Right? It's a beautiful thing, but because we have all this, we're throwing off our circadian rhythms. We're throwing off all these different things. And being in North America, it's the idea that, I mean, go, go, go. But I also think in March, we learned that it's not working.
Yeah.
That system is broken, and we're in a change right now. And maybe that's part of it. Like we're in this cosmic kind of change because of how the world is now going, that we have to learn how to ride it and adapt and go with it. And there's going to be something beautiful on the end of it. Well, I don't know what that is yet, but I'm optimistic that there will be, because there has to be. And we'll get there. It's just, you're right. It's that self-care and that slowing down, and I say to my patients too, take the 10 minutes to chill. Like, I don't have time to exercise. You have 10 minutes, right? Like, do it while you brush your teeth. Like, there is the time if you want it enough.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to just because I want to be mindful of the time. So one thing that I want to tap into, I don't want to rush it, but I want to make sure that we have space for it. And you had mentioned earlier, being a female business owner in 2020. It's funny. I just finished binging all 11 seasons of Modern Family. Since
We just finished that too.
And it was funny because in the last season, Gloria is a real estate agent, and she said, "It's 2020. I shouldn't have to be losing my job to an old white man," because she went to work and then her husband was staying at home taking care of the kids, and she was feeling that sort of disconnect. So I thought that it was interesting that she said that, and now you're saying being a woman in 2020, a female business owner. I want to give you space to talk about that.
So the interesting thing is, when I went to the banks to talk about the mortgaging and the financing to purchase the clinic space that we're in, all except for one bank ignored me and talked to my husband.
No.
Yeah, dead serious. So everybody there, granted, like I said, I'm not the numbers person. So my husband had gone and crunched the numbers, and because we did it as a partnership. But at the end of the day, his name's not on anything. Right? He's just my support. He's my best friend. He's there to help me. That's his strong point. But when it came to presenting, the financial plan and things like that I had done, they looked at him, and I'm like, hi, he has no part in how it's going to be successful directly, like he does, in the sense that he's supporting me and loving me, and he's my evening receptionist and my Saturday receptionist, and he comes like that kind of thing. So he's there, but it's my business.
Yes.
So that was mind-boggling to me, that I'm like, I'm an articulate and passionate and successful practitioner already, right? I just won the Richmond Hill Board of Trade Young Entrepreneurs Award.
Yes,
right?
That's right. Congratulations.
Right before the pandemic. So I'm like, I think I kind of know what I'm doing. and to still have that kind of response from the banks was was an interesting experience.
Wow.
Obviously now I've developed a relationship with the bank that we went with, and that it's fine now. But just not realizing it, because again, I don't want to say I've lived kind of with oblivious, but I've always been, don't tell me not to do something because I'm going to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I might not be aware of where those difficulties have come from because I don't choose to acknowledge them. I just keep kind of going forward.
Yeah. You'll go around them, you'll go above them, below them, but you're not.
Yeah, they're just obstacles. I just figure that's life. Okay, there's an obstacle. Let's figure out how to get over it, right? Like, like I said, I was a gymnast. You fall down, you learn to pick yourself back up and course correct, and there you go, right? So that was interesting. And then now that I'm also in like my mid 30s, that like, okay, how do I run a business and then potentially have a family? But my business is me, and this unseen pressure that's still there to have a family.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or what's that going to look like? Can I go back to work right away? Or is my husband going to be able to take time off? Like all those pressures that are there societally are still there.
Right.
Right. And then I looked at my colleagues in the middle of this pandemic that wanted to go back to work, but couldn't because there was no daycare.
Mm.
So you're like, how have we gone backwards? Because
Right.
we have. And like, how has this gone backwards? And I mean, every family has to do their own thing that's right for them. Don't get me wrong, but the stats are still there. There was a lot of, females that couldn't go back to work because the kids weren't in school, or there was no daycare, and I'm like, I didn't come to this point in my life to finally open this clinic and not to be able to, because I love what I do. So how do I balance and find the trust in myself that I'll find that balance to be able to do it all?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are the internal dialogues that still have to happen in business owners today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't want a pandemic on top of that.
Right. It's
Because
yeah. 2020 has been a wow.
it's been a wow, but it's I talk about it with my husband on a regular basis. I'm like, yeah, it's been a wow, but we were still able to accomplish some pretty amazing things. And I'm choosing to see that versus everything else. Maybe that's my own optimism in there.
Well, I think that's key, right? That's what's going to get us through this is seeing that we're getting through it.
Right. It's what's the analogy? I think it's like a crab or a lobster, right? As they grow and change, they have that amount of discomfort before they shed that exoskeleton and then become the next phase, right? So that struggle and that growth is helping to shape them to become that much better, or to realize, okay, this isn't working, so now we need to do this.
Right.
So again, that's my optimism that we're going to come out of this. I mean, there's a lot of other issues that obviously need to be completely changed, don't get me wrong, but the proof is there right now. I think we're aware of it, and we're starting to. More needs to be done, but the dialogue is at least happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think
We
it's
all do it.
yeah, and I think it's beautiful. And I use this term beautiful, but people, anyways, I think it's beautiful all the ugliness that has come up this year. It's beautiful in the sense that now we have an opportunity to do the healing, to do the work, to make the changes. Because before, when we were ignoring it and stuffing it down, we weren't doing the work. So the beauty of it coming up is like, okay, now we can change this. We can
You
vote.
can't create lip service anymore.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Like now
Yeah.
it's like we got to get into action. Otherwise, we're just going down.
Yeah, then I refuse to accept that.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. We don't.
Either that, or we're going to come up to the farm and we're going to live there, and you know.
Oh my goodness. Well, Dr. Heather, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad that we got to connect. I'm putting your links and stuff with the show notes so people can get in touch with you, reach out to you. And I love you so much. Thanks for
Love you
joining me today.
too. Miss you.
I miss you. Hugs.
Hugs. Yay.
Oh my God, I can feel that. I love that. I love
Yeah,
you so much. Thank you again. I'll talk to you soon.
absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you once again to Dr. Heather for being a guest on today's show. Please check out her links in the show's notes. And remember, lovers, I'd love to hear from you. So please send me a note. And remember, we have the Facebook group. So join the Facebook group. For now, I love you very much, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.